Okay, welcome to our second 120 anatomy Zoom session. Last week we covered we did an overview last week of the whole ear. We just kind of did a summary. We talked about the three main parts of the ear, the outer, the middle, and the inner ears. We talked a little bit about the eighth nerve, which is the cranial nerve that carries information from the inner ear to the brain. We said that the inner ear is called the cochlea, C-O-C-H-L-E-A, which is Greek for snail shell. We said that the middle ear is about the size of a sugar cube. It's got the three smallest bones of the body. We said that the outer ear, the part you can wiggle, is a lot like the nose because you can wiggle the bottom of your nose, okay? Your nose always knows. The inner part of your outer ear, the skin surrounds bone, but the outer part of your outer ear, the skin covers cartilage. Well, let's kind of share screen now and look at our notes and our PowerPoint slides with this. So here I've pulled up notes, and we'll go to the very top. Here's hoping, of course, that everybody's got the notes printed up because that's always essential in any Zoom session to have these guys printed up. Here's your readings for the outer ear per se. We're covering today the outer ear anatomy and physiology. Remember, the anatomy is what it is, physiology is what it does. Anatomy is the form, physiology is the function. Good. So now looking at the auricle or pinna. There's various parts to this, and that's what we're going to look at. Here's the parts: the helix, antihelix, the tragus, and the concha. Let's take a peek in our PowerPoints to see what that looks like itself. So here's the outer ear that we even showed you last week. Okay, and you can see how the skin of the ear canal covers bone in the inner half, but it covers cartilage in the outer half. And that's what I meant when I was grabbing my nose, bending this, okay? Because you can wiggle this part, you can wiggle the outer part of someone's ear canal. And by the way, when you are looking in someone's ear, as you will, as HISs, you will often pull the outer ear, and you'll pull the outer ear up and back, up and back. When you do so, you straighten out the ear canal so you can see all the way into the drum. Because your ear canal really isn't like a straight tunnel. It's really kind of got a bend. It's almost like a dog leg. It's kind of, it's got a couple of bends in it. And when you pull the ear up and back, it allows you to get a clear view of the ear drum itself. Good? All right. So here's the ear canal. This is showing it to you. This is, remember, as we said last week, it's about 1 inch long, or in centimeters, 2.5 centimeters. And remember, a centimeter is about the width of your fingernail. So here you go. It's about 1 inch long here. The skin covers cartilage on the outer half, bone on the inner half. Now here's the parts and pieces of the outer ear that we talked about. I'll tell you which parts to pay attention to and which parts to ignore. The part you should keep in mind is the helix. The helix is the outer rim of the ear of the ear itself. Remember, the outer ear itself is called the pinna, P-I-N-N-A, pinna, okay, this whole outer ear, or sometimes it's called the auricle, A-U-R-I-C-L-E, auricle, okay, auricle or pinna. And there's 4 pieces I need you to know: the helix, which is the outer rim, and then the antihelix. Now they're kind of pointing at a funny way here. This is the antihelix, what you're looking at here, the second rim, the second hill, so to speak, inside the ear. So you have the helix, the antihelix, and then you have this is called the concha bowl, concha, C-O-N-C-H-A, concha. They call it concha cava. Who cares? Just call it the concha. That's this bowl. And the 4th part you need to know is called the tragus. Now, tragus is actually, if I can show you my own ear, Tragus is just this little bump here. Tragus is the piece that kind of fits over top of the pinna. If you want to plug your ear, don't put your finger in your ear. The best way to plug an ear is actually to push on top of the tragus. Then you really plug an ear. So the tragus is this little flap of skin in the front of your ear canal. So the four parts: helix, antihelix, concha, tragus. And in men, usually in older men, which you will be seeing, so I'm mentioning this to you, men grow often a lot of hair in their ears. Kind of gross, okay? The hair grows from inside the tragus. The tragus is actually the Greek word for goat's beard. Weird, but true. All right, share screen, look at our notes. Here we are. So here's your parts that you need to know. Now your external auditory meatus, that's your ear canal, E-A-M. Ear canal. Meatus is simply the Latin word for opening or channel. In adults, it's about 1 inch long, 2.5 centimeters. You don't need to know the 9 millimeters high and 6.5 millimeters wide, but do look at what millimeters are. Remember this. A meter, about a yard, 39 inches. A centimeter, you have 100 centimeters in a meter. And a centimeter is the width of your fingernail. And a millimeter is 1/10 of a centimeter. So it's 1/10 of my fingernail. Okay? Millimeters, centimeters, meters, and then you do 1,000 meters, a kilometer. Okay? So remember that. That's just science. I'm not teaching you anything other than pure science. And science uses metric, always. Now, even in the USA, science uses metric. So very important to have a grasp of metric. Meter, about 39 inches, centimeters, millimeters, kilometers. Those four would be really useful for you to know. Just FYI, just telling you. All right. Now, the outer the meatus, the ear canal, you'll see what I'm graying out here, has 2 bends. Important to know for taking ear impressions for hearing aids. Okay? You will be taking ear mold impressions for the shape of hearing aids. So you need to understand that the outer ear canal is shaped like a dog's leg. It has 2 bends in it. It's about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit blood temperature. So bugs would love to get in your outer ear canal. It's nice and warm in there. It's 37 degrees Celsius. Here's something else to get a good grip of right away when you're studying a science. Now you need to know metric for temperature. Okay? Remember, you guys, 32 is freezing. In metric, 0 is freezing. And metric in temperature is called Celsius, C-E-L-S-I-U-S. You guys use Fahrenheit. The rest of the world uses Celsius. And science uses Celsius, okay? In the USA, boiling is 212 degrees. The rest of the world, boiling is 100. So in Celsius, 0 is freezing, 100 is boiling. So now let's go back to what we had on your page here, onto your notes. Ear canal is about 98.6 Fahrenheit. It's about 37 degrees Celsius. Those are about the same heat, okay? Bugs would love it. Now, the reason you have earwax, this is earwax. Earwax, the word for earwax is cerumen, okay? Cerumen. Cerumen is earwax, and cerumen grows from glands here and here. Cerumen, earwax, originates from the outer half of the ear canal, the cartilaginous portion. Earwax does not originate from the bony portion of your ear canal. When you use Q-tips, you are actually pushing the wax further in toward the eardrum, because earwax doesn't normally sit here. Earwax grows here. And earwax in the ear canal is like mucus in the nose. It's good for you, okay? But the reason you have earwax is twofold. One, it keeps the ear canal moist. The second reason you have earwax is bugs don't like the taste of it. Bugs hate cerumen. So cerumen is a natural bug retardant, because otherwise bugs would love to crawl in the ear canal because it's nice and warm. Outer ear canal is surrounded by the mastoid portion of the temporal bone. What does that mean? Circle it. Put a circle around mastoid and put a circle around temporal. The temporal bone is, if you will look at me, and we showed you last week in the Zoom session from last week, the temporal bone is the bone that kind of surrounds the ear. Okay? It's the side bone of the skull. Now, the temporal bone has two portions. It's got a mastoid portion and it has a petrous portion. Mastoid means full of holes. It's pneumatic, full of holes. Petrous comes from the word Peter, the Apostle Peter, the rock. So petrous is the Greek word for hard, like a rock, okay? So the temporal bone has two parts, a hard part, the petrous portion, and a soft part, the mastoid portion. So now let's look at your PowerPoint here and see what we're talking about. Here's the mastoid portion. See all the holes in it? It's very holy, okay? And it's got a lot of holes in it. It's a lot like this here rock, okay? Here. Lots of holes in there, okay? Looks like a hippopotamus. Anyway, the mastoid portion is very porous. It's soft. And so the mastoid portion surrounds the outer ear canal, and it also surrounds part of the middle ear space. And then the petrous portion is further in toward the center of your head, and that surrounds mainly the inner ear, the petrous portion. So you've got the mastoid portion and the petrous portion of the temporal bones. And you're going to hear more about that later on. Okay, the outer half of the ear canal skin covers cartilage, hair in old man's ears. The outer half of the ear canal has sebaceous glands that produce cerumen. Bugs don't like cerumen. Oh, by the way, look at the word sincere. Sincere means without wax. Did you know that? Sincerely yours, without wax, yours, Ted. Where did that come from? In Roman times, if you really loved someone, you gave the person a solid silver statue. It was solid silver. It wasn't filled with wax. Cheap people gave a statue, but it would be silver only on the outside, filled with wax on the inside. Sincerely means without wax. It's the real thing. That's where the word sincerely. Cerumen, wax. Sincere, without wax. Anyway, just a piece of useless but interesting information. Now, the inner half of your ear canal, no glands or hair. Now, here's what an otoscope looks like. Here we go. Speculum. Possible danger with a speculum when looking in. So let's look and see what a speculum is. Here's the instrument that you will be using to look in people's ears. It's called an otoscope. Otoscope. And the speculum is this black tube right here. Now there's a light that's produced here, and the light shines through the black tube. This handle holds the batteries. Okay, you will be learning about how to look in people's ears, because you can't take ear mold impressions if the ear canal is full of wax. You need to look in the outer ear to see if it is indeed filled with wax and whether the doctor or nurse has to clean out the ear first before you can begin to take an ear mold impression. But you have to be very careful when looking into the outer ear canal with the speculum, because if you push too hard, you'll pinch this skin. See the skin right here and the skin right here? You'll pinch it against the bone. And then you're going to get a big blood blister. And it's going to look pretty bad. You'll get a big blood blister on the floor and the ceiling of your ear canal. So you have to be very careful when looking into an ear. Don't push it in too hard. It's also very important, you will be learning to brace against the head when you're looking in with your finger to make sure that you can't push the otoscope too far in. But you'll learn that later on. Okay, the inner half of your ear canal contains no glands or hair. Okay, as we said, possible danger with a speculum when looking in. Skin covers the mastoid portion of the temporal bone, which is soft and porous. Cerumen, earwax, from secretions of sebaceous and whatever, these weird glands, in the outer half of ear canal. EAM, again, is the short way of saying ear canal, external auditory meatus. The skin in your outer ear canal is very thin. It doesn't flake, as is typical with normal skin. It moves slowly like a glacier onto the tympanic membrane and then onto the on the eardrum and migrates out, slowly migrating out. So let's see if I've even got a picture of that. I'm not 100% sure, but I might. Let's see. Let's see, do I or do I not? Oh, look at this. We'll get to that later on. Okay, the skin of your outer ear canal. Just seeing if I have a picture of that or not. It's not the end of the world if I don't. But the skin of your outer ear canal migrates, and it tends to migrate outward from the eardrum, and it grows slowly and migrates out. Therefore, wax would normally be pushed out of your ear canal naturally and by nature. Just a word to the wise. Otoscopic examination of an ear canal, pull ear up and back to straighten out the canal. Children tend to have a different kind of ear canal. It tends to go down instead of up. So if you were looking into a child's ear, you'd pull the ear down and up or back, not up and back. Anyway, we talked last week a little bit about the temporal mandibular joint, how the jaw, the jaw actually kind of meets the bottom of the ear canal, and how you can get arthritis of the jaw causing temporal side, mandibular, mandible is the jaw, the joint, TMJ, it's like arthritis of the jaw, and it actually hurts the outer ear. The outer ear canal is where you'll feel it. So some people are going to come to you with ear pain, otalgia, as you learned last week, otalgia, O-T-O-A-L-G-I-A. Algia means pain. So otalgia is ear pain, because oto is ear. Otalgia, ear pain, is often associated with ear aches, middle ear infections, or TMJ, temporal mandibular joint syndrome. Protrusion of the mandible into the osseo-cartilaginous junction of your canal. The bony cartilaginous junction of your ear canal. And in English, it's, whoa, what the Sam Hill happened there? Whoa, there, okay? It's this junction right here. Underneath there is where your jawbone kind of articulates with the rest of your skull, or connects with the rest of your skull, and it'll cause ear pain. The person may end up coming to see you when he or she should actually be going to see his or her dentist. Just a word for the wise. Oh, should know what TMJ is, okay? Now, all right, back to your notes here. All right, eardrum. Let's look at the eardrum, or tympanic membrane. TM, tympanic membrane or eardrum. Tympanum is a word for drum. Your eardrum actually has 3 layers of skin. 3 layers. It's interesting. The outer layer comes from what's called ectoderm, the same skin that covers your ear canal. The middle layer of your eardrum comes originally from something called mesoderm. Now, mesoderm is a tough, fibrous middle layer of skin in your ear canal. It gives your tympanic membrane its vibrating ability. It's what makes your eardrum stiff, the middle layer. And then you have an inner layer of skin, and that comes from a tissue called endoderm. Endo is always in. Ecto here is always outside. Okay, endo means inside. Meso just means middle. Okay, and derm, a dermatologist is a skin doctor, right? So derm is skin. Outer skin, middle skin, inner skin. And the inner skin of your eardrum is continuous with the mucus lining of your middle ear space. So if I have a picture of that, it might look like this. Here's your ear canal. Here's a picture of a piece of your eardrum. This is that middle layer of skin. And then this is just a schematic of your middle ear space. So this would be endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. And the eardrum is unique and singular because it's the one piece of your body that contains all the original 3 layers of skin that form from the embryo. After conception, when the sperm meets the egg, you have an embryo, an embryonic disc. And that embryonic disc in mummy has 3 layers of tissue: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Ectoderm forms skin and also nerves. Mesoderm turns into bones and muscle. Endoderm turns into anything slimy in your body: your guts, your intestines, your heart, your lungs, the insides of your cheeks, the insides of your nose, the insides of your middle ear space, which is mucus. Anything sticky and slimy inside the body is endoderm. And the eardrum is the one piece of tissue in your body that into adulthood contains all 3 of those original embryonic skin layers. Weird, huh? Just thought I'd tell you. All right, looking back over here, let's go back to your notes. All right, let's look at the areas of the eardrum. We've talked about its 3 layers. Please don't think you need to memorize the area of the tympanic membrane like this. You know how I want you to memorize the area of the tympanic membrane? It looks like this. It's the end of your finger. How big is your eardrum? Like the end of your finger. Okay? That's the best way to think about it. So your eardrum isn't as big as your eyeball. I'd say your eardrum is as big as the blue or brown of your eye. If you're looking in a mirror, look at your eye and look at the round blue or brown, whichever you have, and that's about the size of your eardrum, about the size of your fingertip looking at you. Okay? That's just a way to remember. Just keep things simple. We don't need to sit there memorizing all these weird little amounts. Just use common sense. Now we're going to get to a part called the umbo, and then the manubrium of the malleus, and then the annulus, and the nodes of Ranvier, and the pars tensa, and the pars flaccida. Well, let's look at that for a sec. Okay, here you're looking at an eardrum, and you're looking at a right tympanic membrane, and you're looking at a left tympanic membrane. Okay? When you're looking at the right tympanic membrane, let's look at the pieces. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so we can see it even better. When you're looking at an eardrum, the outer part, see this ring here? That's called the annulus. So look at your notes there, A-N-N-U-L-U-S, annulus. That's the outer rim of your ear canal. The annulus holds your eardrum tight inside your ear canal, okay? The next thing you need to look at in your eardrum is this centerpiece here. The very center is called the umbo, U-M-B-O, okay? Umbo. That's the very dead center of your eardrum. Now, you'll see this teardrop shape thing here. This teardrop shape is actually the first bone inside your middle ear. They call it the manubrium, manu, M-A-N-U, manubrium, M-A-N-U-B-R-I-U-M, manubrium. In Latin, that means handle. It's the handle of the malleus. And I'm wondering if I can even show you better here. I'm going to just see if I can show you so you can see it a little bit better. And it's a little, don't think so. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up something here. I'm going to pull up your middle ear slide so I can just show this to you so you can see it better. Hang on, stick with me. File Explorer, hang on here, go to Documents, go to OTC, over the counter. Okay, OTC, go into Anatomy 120, and let's look at the middle ear. Just pull up the middle ear for a second so you can see what I'm trying to show you here, okay? There, pop that guy up. Okay, first slide. Here's the eardrum, looking at it. Can you see how it's like a speaker cone? The eardrum is actually sucked in, okay? Here's the malleus, the first bone of your middle ear. Your lay people call it the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. You and I will, from now on, we call this the malleus, M-A-L-L-E-U-S, malleus. The second bone, what the common people call the anvil, is called the incus. Here, I'm circling it, incus, I-N-C-U-S. And the last little bone, shaped like a stirrup, is called the stapes. S-T-A-P-E-S, stapes. So malleus, incus, stapes. Now, when I was saying manubrium, here's the manubrium. The manubrium is stuck on the back of the eardrum. And here's the umbo, the tip. You see? That's what I'm trying to say. So now when you're looking at it face on in your other PowerPoint slide, it looked like this. Okay, so here's that manubrium of the malleus. There's the umbo. All right, and all that is actually this other slide. You're looking through the drum. When your eardrum is kind of like a bathroom window. You can kind of, you know how you have windows that you can kind of see shadows, but you can't see through? That word is called translucent. It just means light can shine through, but you can't see through it, okay? That's what your eardrum is like. You can kind of see through it. When you're looking with an otoscope, the light shining, you can kind of see the landmarks of the eardrum. You'll see that manubrium of the malleus. You'll see the umbo. You'll see the annulus. So these are the landmarks that I'm trying to show you so that you can tell the pieces and parts of an eardrum when you look at them. So your otoscope is going to shine light here. And remember, the eardrum is kind of inward, like a speaker. Okay, it's dented inward. And the tip end of it is the umbo. So that would be this. And then you're going to see this here. This here is, don't worry about that. Those are called what's called the nodes of Ranvier, N-O-D-E-S, nodes of Ranvier, R-A-N-V-I-E-R, nodes of Ranvier. It's in your notes. You'll see that at the bottom of your page there, okay? And that's what separates the eardrum into its two main parts, okay? This is the pars tensa, and this is the pars flaccida. Pars in Latin just means parts. P-A-R-S just means part. Okay? Flaccid part, tense part. Pars flaccida, pars tensa. So these nodes of Ranvier separate pars tensa, the tense, stiff part of your drum, from the flaccid part. Now, you know why you have those? Let's see what else I can show you here. Let's see if I've got any more good pictures that way. No, that's okay. That's all right. All right, the reason you have those is, so we're reading, look, pars tensa, sometimes called shrapnel's membrane. It's the large surface of your eardrum, okay? Hence, it's tight, taut. Hence it's called the pars tensa. Pars flaccida is a smaller, looser tissue area. Now think of, and that's the area here. Where are we? Here. Why do you have that? Let's talk about why. Have you ever gone up a real tall building or gone up a mountain in a car and your ears pop and you change air pressure because your ears pop? Okay, that's because the air pressure in your ear canal, in your middle ear space, where your malleus, incus, and stapes is, that air pressure is no longer the same as the air pressure in the room around you. Okay, so for me to show this to you, and I'll gladly do on our middle ear slide. Let's go to the middle ear one so you can just see that clearly. The air pressure in this space is no longer equal to the air pressure outside the drum. And so what you've got to do is blow your nose or chew gum or do something so that new air can come up this eustachian tube and equalize the air pressure on both sides of your drum. Well, the reason you've got the pars flaccida, this little soft area here, the reason you have that is because it's really soft. And even if you go up a flight of stairs, or even if you go up a 3-story walk-up apartment, there's going to be a difference in air pressure from there to the ground. And so that pars flaccida accommodates small air pressure changes, such as when you go up a flight of stairs, or you go from one floor to another floor of your house. That pars flaccida accommodates that tiny air pressure that would change without you having to blow your nose to equalize the air pressure. So you have that pars flaccida kind of as a give for tiny air pressure changes. But that's no longer enough if you're climbing up a mountain or you're rising up in a jet and the air pressure changes, okay? Then you have to kind of blow your nose and equalize your air pressure. Anyway, okay, back to your notes. Back to the notes. There you go. Cone of light. There's another landmark. Your cone of light is actually this. See that white shade there? See the white shade here? That's not real, okay? That's just a reflection of the light from your otoscope. It's not on your drum naturally. It's the reflection of light off of the eardrum. And when you look in a person's right ear, that cone of light will be at 5 o'clock. When you look in someone's left ear, that cone of light will be at 7 o'clock. Just FYI, this is a quizzable item, okay? Remember that. Cone of light isn't real. So look at the landmarks of the eardrum again with me. What do you have? You have manubrium of the malleus, umbo, nodes of Ranvier, pars flaccida, pars tensa, annulus, and cone of light. And cone of light, 5 o'clock in the right ear, cone of light, 7 o'clock in the left ear. All right, here's the 3 layers again. We won't go here quite yet. Okay, now let's go to your notes and see where we are. Beautiful. So basically, we have now covered the anatomy of your outer ear. See, the outer ear is the simplest part of your ear. It's the largest and the simplest. As we go to the middle ear, you're going to end up spending 2 weeks on the anatomy and physiology of the middle ear. When you get to the inner ear, it's going to be 4 weeks at least. Okay, so things get more complicated as you go in. But we can't leave the outer ear until we describe its physiology. Now back up a step with me. Here you go. There's some outer ear embryology. That's what I mentioned earlier. 3 original layers of tissue: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. Outer and inner ears originate from same tissue, ectoderm. You know why? Because the outer ear is skin and cartilage, and the inner ear is nerves. And what comes from ectoderm? Nerves and skin. The middle ear comes from mesoderm because it contains 3 little bones and also has 2 little muscles that you're going to learn about next week. Okay, there's 2 little muscles inside your middle ear too. So mesoderm gives rise to muscle, bone, and cartilage. And so basically your middle ear comes from mesoderm. Its mucosal lining, its slimy lining, comes from endoderm because endoderm forms anything slimy in your body. The tympanic membrane or eardrum is unique in that it has all 3 layers of original embryonic tissue. Okay, now let's talk physiology of the outer ear. Not what it is, but what it does. The outer ear, mainly a funnel to gather sound, but now put a star by this. The resonance of your concha bowl. The resonance, in other words, resonance, as you learned in acoustics this morning, in 110, resonance is the favorite vibrating frequency of an object. It's the favorite vibrating frequency of an object. And remember we said this morning, it depends on the mass and the stiffness of the object, okay? So any object that carries sound has mass and stiffness, and its mass and stiffness determine its favorite vibrating frequency, namely its resonance. Okay, the concha bowl has a resonance of 5,000 to 6,000 hertz. That's about at the frequency of the letter S, high-pitched. Okay, that's one thing. Now let's share screen here and go to our PowerPoint or to our notes. It's important for localizing high frequency sounds. And now I can't say recall from acoustics because we didn't really cover this in acoustics, but we'll talk about it now. Any object like a cup, and dang it, my coffee cup is in the kitchen, but you know what I mean, a cup, okay? A cup is open at one end and it's closed at the other end, isn't it? Okay, a cup is like a cylinder. Let me just show you here. Anything that's a cylinder, that's round and closed at one end and open at the other end, okay, those are called quarter wave resonators, whether it's a cup or whether it's your ear canal. Because your ear canal is also a cylinder closed at one end. Okay, so let's look at that in our PowerPoints and make sure we see that so that we're not just talking Dixie here, we're talking reality, okay? If I go to the original slide here, it's shaped like a cylinder and it's closed at one end. Any object like that, any object that's a cylinder closed at one end is called a quarter wave resonator. Let's go to our notes, make sure we got this. EAM, or ear canal, is a quarter wave resonator. And it means it's a closed tube at one end. And objects like this, and I'm highlighting this, they resonate best with sound waves 4 times as long. They resonate best with sound waves 4 times as long. So how long is the ear canal in inches? 1 inch. So what's it going to resonate with? It's going to resonate with sound waves that are 4 inches long. Told you. Remember we talked earlier this morning about sound waves that are really high? High frequency sound waves are very short, okay? So your ear canal is going to resonate with sound waves that are about a few inches long. because it's a quarter wave resonator. And it's 1 inch long, so it's going to resonate with sound waves 4 times its length. If you say the ear canal is 2.5 centimeters long, okay, because we talked about an inch is 2.5 centimeters. So let's talk metric. What's it going to resonate in terms of metric? It's going to resonate with sound waves that are 10 centimeters long, because 4 times 2.5 is 10. So you can either say 10 centimeters long or 4 inches long, because both are the same length. Quarter wave resonators, they resonate with sound waves 4 times their length. And that's why we show this picture here. We'll go to the picture, go, 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 do, do, do. Oh, here you go. Outer ear canal resonance. Here's where we start to look at graphs a little bit. So let's look at this carefully. Here's frequency. Remember we talked this morning about audiometry, audiometric test frequencies. We test at 125, 250, 500, 1000 hertz, 1K, 2000 hertz, 2K, 4, and 8000 hertz, 7 octave frequencies. So let's say if you put 125 decibels into the ear canal, not 125 decibels, 125 hertz. Let's pretend you have a speaker here. Yeah, we'll pretend this is a speaker. Oh, there we go. It's actually a fan. But let's pretend I'm putting sound into my ear canal, and it's 125 hertz. And let's say I put it in at some intensity, say 50 decibels. And we'll talk mañana later about what decibels are. But right now, just say at say 50. If I put sound into the ear canal at about 50, and the frequency is 125 hertz, what will I measure at my ear canal? 50 decibels, 125 hertz. If I do that at 250 hertz, if I take a 250 hertz tone and I put it in my ear canal at 50 decibels, what am I going to measure at my eardrum? The same thing. If I put 1000 hertz into my ear canal at 50 decibels, what will I measure at my ear? The same thing, 1000 hertz at 50. Now watch the proverbial crap hit the fan. If I put 2000 hertz from a speaker into my ear, and the intensity is 50 decibels, what will I measure at my eardrum? Not 50, I'm going to measure probably like 60. Because now it's beginning to resonate. I'm hitting the resonance of my ear canal. So if I put 50 decibels coming here at 2000 hertz, I'm going to measure probably 60 at my eardrum because I'm hitting its favorite vibrating frequency due to its mass and its stiffness, and due to the fact that it's a quarter wave resonator. It's going to resonate with sound waves 4 times its length, and sound waves that are about 4 inches long are around these frequencies. Here, right around here. So your ear is naturally resonating between about 1500 hertz and around 4000 hertz. That's the sweet spot. Right there. And what's your outer ear giving? It's giving, look at this, about 20 decibels. It's being added. Your outer ear canal naturally resonates with high frequency sounds. And what frequencies? Between 1 and 4000 hertz. To be perfectly truthful, between about 1500 hertz and 4000 hertz, with a peak at around 27. So basically, your ear canal as a quarter wave resonator is going to favor sound waves that are in these frequencies. And why is that so important? Because the high frequency consonants of speech are right there. So the outer ear has its weird, unique shape. The helix, the antihelix, the concha bowl, and the ear canal length, all of these things put together give you that resonance that looks like about this. And a lot of people have a lot of detail with it. I mean, I'm never going to ask you this, but look, the concha bowl is going to resonate high. Look at number 3, concha, between 5 and 6,000 hertz. And the ear canal is going to resonate with, here's ear canal and eardrum is going to resonate with a slightly lower frequency. And all the pieces and parts, and when you add them all together, you're going to get this T for total. And if you follow this T for total, that's what looks like this. Okay, this is my drawing, and this is a researcher's drawing. So I'm just saying, I'm drawing this outer line here, and look where the peak resonance is, around 2,700 hertz. Frequency in kilohertz. See? Told you. So it's interesting. So this is really the main physiology of your outer ear, is it's acting as a quarter wave resonator. Why? Because then it amplifies the high frequencies of speech. Why is that important? Because consonants, the letters S, F, TH, CH, sh, are high-pitched in speech. And your outer ear physiology, all of its shape is meant to resonate precisely at the frequencies of speech that are high. Always remember, the elderly have trouble hearing treble. And when they're losing hearing loss because of inner ear damage, this resonance isn't enough to help anymore. Now they need hearing aids, okay? But this natural resonance occurs, and that's a gift of either the creator or evolution, however you want to look at it, but you got to know that the ear is literally married to speech. And that's why if you go to Missouri State University in Springfield, or you go to Maryland State University in Baltimore, or wherever you go, and they have a speech and hearing department, that's what they call it, speech and hearing, because they are connected. And audiology studies the ear, and speech-language pathology studies speech. But the two are married with each other. Remember the name for the most common hearing loss in the world, presbycusis. Presbyterian, presbycusis, okay? Presbyterian, Church of the Elders, presbycusis, trouble hearing treble. There's nothing wrong with their outer ear. Nothing's happened to it. But its natural resonance is no longer enough to help because they have inner ear pathology as well. So that's a general thing we should always appreciate. Okay, so you got all the, don't worry about memorizing all of this stuff. Just stick to the way I've talked about right here, the way you've heard me verbalize it. You will get more of this later on. This is kind of detailed here, but generally, the resonance is between 1,500 and 4,000 hertz in adults. Put a star by that, okay? And so carry on. And what's the benefit here? Helps you to hear the soft, high frequency, unvoiced sh. You're not using a voice for the consonants of speech. This is why the outer ears have a weird shape and why the ear canal has its length. The ear is made for speech. If we didn't speak, we'd likely have differently shaped ears. We probably would have dog or cat's ears. Who knows? But look here now at something called the occlusion effect. Now, the occlusion effect is big time. You got to know this one too. This is a very important aspect of the outer ear. Occlusion effect means, and I'll just talk to you first. Plug one ear. Go ahead, plug one ear. Now talk. Say hello to me. Okay, keep talking. Talk. Speak. Where do you hear your voice? You hear your voice loudest in the ear that you plugged, didn't you? Okay? When you unplug your ear, you don't hear your voice as loud. When you plug your ear and you talk, you hear yourself loudest in the ear that's plugged. That's called the occlusion effect. Now, that would happen to anyone wearing a hearing aid, right? Because if you plug up the ear with a hearing aid, you're going to hear your own voice really loud in that ear. That's why hearing aids have a little hole built into them, and that hole is called a vent. V-E-N-T, vent. All hearing aids have vents, and vents allow the occlusion effect to go away. because they're a little hole in the hearing aid that reduces the plugging up. Let's read about the occlusion effect. One of the biggest complaints of hearing aid wearers is the occlusion effect. Okay, so it's important that we realize in anatomy what it is and what it's caused by. Occlusion effect. Your own voice sounds louder when your ear is plugged. This is normal. It should happen. If it doesn't, Houston, you have a problem. Okay, so occlusion effect is normal. And let's talk about tape recorded voice. Okay, this is interesting. So this, I'm going to really be explaining a lot here, and then we'll call it a day. But you need to know this, okay? What I'm trying to teach you here is more than what you'd learn in an IHS online course. I'm cheating. I'm throwing in audiology. I'm throwing in some master's degree level stuff. And I want OTC grads to be a cut above. So I'm teaching you lots of weird, in-depth things that a lot of hearing aid dispensers out there don't know. You are going to be ahead of them by the time you're done, okay? So here comes one of those zingers. Have you ever listened to a recording of your voice? Do you like it? I don't. My voice sounds like geese farts on a muggy day. I don't know how you guys put up with it. Okay, when I listen to a recording of my voice, it sucks. I hate it. But everyone else says, no, that sounds just like you. You're the only one who hates it. You know why you're the only one who hates it? I'll tell you why. Because when you hear your own voice, you are hearing through the air and through the bone. Sound waves are traveling from your voice out of your mouth and into your ears, but sound waves are also traveling through the bone of your skull to your inner ears. So you hear yourself through the air and through the bone, whereas you hear others only through the air. Okay? So you now think about the bone of your skull. It has mass. The bone has mass. So what did we say this morning in 110? What's mass going to resonate? Low frequencies. So the low frequencies of your voice are going to resonate the mass of your skull. So because you hear yourself through that, through bone as well as through air, you're going to hear yourself a bit lower pitched and more rich. Your own voice to yourself is going to sound richer and deeper. When you hear yourself through a recording, you're going to sound a little bit tinny. You're going to be thinking, is that me? I hate that. Well, that's how others hear you, because they're not hearing you through the bone. They're just hearing you through sound waves traveling through air. You are hearing yourself through sound waves traveling through air as well as through the mass of the bone of your skull. And mass resonates with lows. So you're going to hear yourself richer. So the occlusion effect is a low frequency phenomenon. And now once again, plug your ears, take your gun, you're not, okay, plug your ear and say, okay, you hear yourself louder, right? Now say the letter S, do that and say the letter S. That doesn't work that way for high frequencies. The occlusion effect is mostly a low frequency phenomenon. If I go, now I want you to look at me and do this, otherwise you're just memorizing and writing on paper. Okay, watch. Do this. Say and plug and unplug your ear. Don't hear much difference, do you? Now hum and do the same thing. Hear way more of a difference, don't you? That's because is lower in frequency than s. So the occlusion effect is a low frequency phenomenon. The lows of your voice are going to be louder when your ear is plugged. Okay, back to the occlusion effect in your notes. You're learning a bit of theory here. This is good for you, okay? The low frequencies of your own voice resonate with the mass of your skull. This in turn vibrates the cartilaginous portion of your ear canal. And plugging your ear prevents this from escaping. The occlusion effect. Don't worry so much about the Bing tuning fork test. It's a test done by doctors, and you will be doing it in labs, and it's based on the occlusion effect. And it's basically, you're going to take a tuning fork and go boom, and you're going to hold it on the bone behind the ear. Feel that bone behind your ear. See that round bone? That's called your mastoid bone. You're going to hold the end of the tuning fork on that mastoid bone, and you're going to say to the guy, do you hear that? And he's going to say, yep. And then you're going to plug his ear and then unplug it. Plug his ear and unplug it. Plug his ear and you're going to say, when is the tone louder? And he's going to say, when you plugged my ear. And you're going to go, good, you have the occlusion effect. Your ear's normal. Okay, if you don't have the occlusion effect, you have a problem. But if you do, then it's normal. You should when you plug your ear. And the tuning fork will be a low frequency tuning fork because you're trying to imitate that thing that you're doing, only you're doing it with a tuning fork. That's called the Bing tuning fork test, named after a guy named Dr. Bing. Okay, no, not me. It's not the Ted Venema tuning fork test, it's the Bing tuning fork test. Enough on that. Scroll down, and we'll look at a bit of some disorders of the ear, and we'll continue on a bit of this next week too, because we don't quite have the time, but look at this here. There are a couple of words to put stars by. Okay? Stenosis, which is a partial closing of your ear canal, usually due to wax. Okay? Usually due to wax. It's a partial closing. Atresia is a complete closure. Complete. And an osteoma, hey, osteoma. An osteoma is a tumor of the bone, a bony spur, a benign tumor in your ear canal. Now let's look at some pictures. There you go. Okay. This is a picture of atresia. Total closure of the ear canal. It's often associated with something called Treacher-Collins syndrome. Spell that word, Treacher, T-R-E-A-C-H-E-R, like teacher, but with an R in it. Treacher, Collins, C-O-L-L-I-N-S, Collins, Treacher-Collins. Treacher-Collins kids have eyes that look a little different. They're kind of close together, and they often have atresia. Their inner ears are normal, but their outer ear is completely plugged. And a surgeon will do surgery to open up that ear canal and may even have to make a plastic surgery fake eardrum. Okay, atresia. Let's look at another pathology of the ear, and so you can see it. Okay, so that would be atresia. Here, look at this guy's hairy old ears. Men. Here's the tragus. Here's the hair growing from the tragus. Look at this guy's hairy ear. Here's atresia. Again, another case of abnormality of the pinna, complete failure of canalization of the external auditory meatus. Look what you're learning. This is out of a doctor's book. Okay? Now you know what all this stuff means. Here's a normal eardrum. Okay? Look at it. You can see the manubrium of the malleus, the umbel, the annulus. Here's the cone of light, reflection of light off your otoscope. And here you can even see part of the incus bone. It's translucent, like a bathroom window. Here's another picture of the eardrum. Okay, manubrium of the malleus, the umbel, cone of light, and you know it's the right ear because it's at 5 o'clock. If it was the left ear, it would be at 7 o'clock. This is a closer up picture of a normal eardrum. Look at the tiny little capillaries on it. Interesting, eh? Now here's a picture of your outer ear canal, the outer half, where wax and hair grows. Okay? And here's deeper in on the right. You're looking deeper in, and where the skin just covers bone. Here the skin covers cartilage. Here the skin is covering bone. See how there's no wax there? So when you use a Q-tip, you're pushing earwax in, which is really dumb. That's why doctors always say never put anything in your ear smaller than your elbow. Here's a picture of your ear canal, again showing the wrinkles of your ear canal and how the skin migrates out, grows outward naturally from the eardrum. Here's a picture of earwax beginning to form at the end of the hairs. It's all normal. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong. If you look in someone's ear and you can still see an eardrum, the guy's going to have no hearing loss due to excess wax. Even this guy. Look at the earwax here. It's all plugged up, but not totally. See how there's a bit of air in between? This guy's not going to have any hearing loss due to his wax. But you should not take an ear mold impression of this guy's ear. You got to get this wax removed. Okay? This is new, young wax. This is new, young wax because it's yellow. But as it gets filled with dirt, it gets harder and turns darker and darker. Much like mucus in your nose can be slimy or it can have crusty bits in it. And we can all say, yes, we've all picked our noses, so we all know what that is. It's not what everybody has. So here's a picture of stenosis. Here's a kid who stuck a bead in his ear. Anything that partially plugs an ear is stenosis. This is stenosis. This is stenosis. This is stenosis. He's got a bug in his ear. A partially plugged ear canal. Okay, it happens. They want to get in there. It's nice and warm. Here's abrasion of your ear canal. Someone is pushed in with a speculum too hard, and you can see the blood blisters. Here's another one, a hematoma, a real blood blister. Here's the eardrum, but maybe the person was picking in his ear too much. Who knows? And look what they call it, otitis externa. Oto, ear, itis, inflammation, external ear. External ear inflammation. External otitis again. Here's a guy with inflammatory conditions, swollen ear canals due to some reason, due to some infection maybe. It results in severe otalgia. You now know what that word means. Ear pain. Here is bony excitoses, bony tumors growing from the ear canal, causing a stenosis again, a partial plugging. But remember, stenosis won't cause hearing loss. As long as sound can get around it, you're good to go. Okay? Often the growth is a result of stimulation of the ear by frequent exposure to cold, especially from swimming. Swimmer's ear. More often in women than in men, because women can swim in cold water, men can't. Okay, long distance swimmers are usually women who swim across these lakes, you know, and win these awards for that. So I'm just showing, here's an osteoma, a tumor of the outer ear canal. And that can be removed. Here's a perforated eardrum. It can heal by itself. Here's a big perforated eardrum. That won't heal by itself. That person will need plastic surgery to plug up the hole in the eardrum. Sometimes doctors actually lay a piece of, get this, cigarette paper across the hole so that it can act as a scrim for new skin to grow across. Weird, huh? Here's acute otitis media. We'll talk about this next week. This is an infection of the middle ear, which is now bulging the eardrum. And it's fluid behind the middle ear, and it's bulging the eardrum. If you took a pin and pricked it, pus would come shooting out at you. This kid has otalgia, ear pain. Mommy, I got an earache. My ear hurts. Okay, ear infection. Acute otitis media, another picture of it. So here's you're beginning to get a swelling of the eardrum. Here's looking at good old mucus fluid that's taken from the middle ear. And I'm going to show you these slides more next week when we start looking at the middle ear. But essentially, for now, I'd say we've covered the outer ear and its physiology. As I said last week, the Zoom sessions are worth their weight in gold. Everything in your course is out of these Zoom sessions. Very important to watch each one. Whether you're working or not, watch it later on when you're done work, whichever works for you and your family. But when you've got the time, be sure to watch it before the next week. Always watch the Zoom sessions in the first few days after they've been given, because then you don't want to be falling behind. Anyway, next week we'll cover the middle ear. We'll spend 2 weeks on the middle ear, okay? As for me now, I would say we've gone on over an hour. We're done. I'm going to stop recording right here.